Hello, everybody, and welcome to Film for Thought, a film podcast by film students for film students. We've been in kind of a hiatus since we've last done an episode, and that's from the whole COVID situation. And with me today, I have Maggie Andrews. Maggie's is a rising sophomore like me in Loyola University, and we both study film together. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Yes, I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, well, I think a good topic to cover. Oh, I'm sorry. I think a good topic to cover is the whole COVID situation that's happening.
Yes, I agree.
Sort of the elephant in the room, we might say. But I don't know. How's your personal experience been with COVID relating to the industry and what you think in general?
Personally, I think there's a lot of things that are impacting. I think the theater, like movie theaters, are going to be impacted the most as of like production. Personally, yeah.
I mean, there's definitely the biggest problem I've been seeing is every time something really big happens to the film industry, there's always, the people who are normally affected are the theaters, the below the line workers, and the small production companies, which I'm pretty sure they're obviously going to be hit the most, especially with the below the line workers. But now it's the first time, I think, in 26 years that the domestic box office just hit zero after the Northridge earthquake 20 years ago that hit LA. But that was only domestically. Now the entire international box office hit zero just out of nowhere.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting how each country, like different places over the world, because it said over in this article that Polish cinemas were opening this week. And I think, especially in the U.S., I can't see any of our cinemas being opening for more weeks or a couple weeks.
I mean, I don't understand how because they're allowing some movie theaters here domestically in the States to open up, which I don't understand how they're going to do it exactly, since most places are working at 25% capacity, and likewise the theaters. But it's interesting to see how production companies and just distribution companies are responding. Like for the Trolls movie, that they released online, like without any theatrical release, just through streaming platforms in general. And I'm not sure on the exact statistics of how they did for getting back their revenue and everything. But definitely it's interesting to see how the film industry is kind of like currently is a guinea pig to see future events to come.
On the Trolls one, honestly, I feel like they should have waited to release it until everything was opening. I mean, they're still making a lot of money right now, and I know it is a guinea pig, and this can be done for like further films that could be affected by an economic disaster like this. And I think that because there's so many people who going to the movies, like they don't have access to streaming services at home. Yeah. And I think like if they were able to just wait, and they would have lost more money from having to market it for longer. But I think they could have made a lot more money doing it.
Like waiting. For I definitely agree with that, especially with the Trolls. I saw a specific video on this talking about because you could buy the movie out right now for $20, I'm pretty sure, in I think it's the Apple Store and on other platforms as well. And in order to get back all the money they put in for production, they would need like 15 million people to buy it individually. And that's not taking into account like renting the movie or stuff like that.
Because renting's only $4, and I know like most people would much rather just rent it and watch it once. But I also think, especially over quarantine, probably the good parts are a lot of people who have young children, like who've always been at school and everything. Like they're trying to find ways to entertain them. So I think that's a good aspect of it, like releasing a family-friendly movie like that and not just like a rated R movie that's only for adults.
I mean,
but I definitely think it was a good movie to use as a guinea pig, though.
You think? I mean, it definitely appeals to a large demographic of people we know that are at home, I feel like.
Yeah.
Because, like, a lot of kids are just mostly at home and don't have a lot to do, which is, I don't know. I feel like I agree with that it was a good movie to sort of test drive that sort
Mm-hmm.
of like non-theatrical release. But it was definitely a really big gamble by Universal to
I
do
do
that.
as well.
But I don't know, like we're both in the same grade. Like we're
Mm-hmm.
both going into our second year of college, studying film and everything. Like I don't know, how are your personal feelings like related to the situation that's happening?
I think, honestly, I'm very glad that I'm in college and not working in the industry while this
Yeah.
happened. And I think I don't know, it's very interesting to, read articles about it and see how they're dealing with it and know, like, how I could possibly prepare myself if something like this were to happen and to find, like, different, like, job, I don't know, like, just to prepare, yeah, like, prepare myself for it. And I'm very sad that the movie theaters are closed. I think they should have done drive-ins
I mean, some
too.
places are trying to do drive-ins
Mhm.
too, but there's just it's just such a difficult situation because, for example, like they drive-ins don't aren't using the standard audio like sound
Yeah.
design like the THX sort of standard for audio, which restricts them from showing some movies. Like all the Star Wars movies, they aren't able to stream or
That's crazy. I did not know
yeah.
that.
It's because if they don't fall between that standard, they some of the like production companies or distribution companies, sorry, won't allow like movie theaters to show it, and I feel like it's such a struggle for like the domestic and international box office, especially because of the gap.
Mhm.
Like I feel like since this whole thing started in March, the first ones to that were affected were the production companies and the below the line workers, of
Mhm.
course. But then now it's moving. It's like trickling in that like gap of time when nothing was made to
Yeah.
like post production companies, and they're like there's nothing to work on. Even if people can't work or if people can work, there's nothing to do.
Yeah. I agree with that. I think too. I think it's going to be interesting watching how like the theaters come back and like which movies they choose to prioritize to show in theaters. I think that's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, and it's because like movies like Mulan or
Mhm.
the James Bond one,
Or that Tenet movie.
the Tenant movie, right? Christian Nolan and Christopher Nolan, sorry,
Mhm.
and which was the other one? I think F9, the Fast and
Mhm.
Furious one. It's like all those are like great examples of like just putting it off and everything, but also there's a lot less time to release these movies, so there's gonna be a lot of competition
Mhm.
too.
I feel like they'll be in the box office for very short because aren't most movies are in there for about a month.
Yeah,
I wonder if they will shorten the time.
but also that also restricts the amount of
Yeah,
money they're able to like
to make
profit
from
from,
it.
and it's like this whole thing mostly affects like I feel like the independent movie theaters too. Like here in New Orleans, we have like the Pertany movie theater,
Mhm.
and currently in New Orleans, I think phase 2 just started yesterday
Today
or today,
or yeah, I think it was today or yesterday.
which I feel like is that 25% capacity in most businesses.
I think it's 50.
It's 50, but it's still like so movie theaters normally on average from the individual ticket people buy make 40%,
Mhm.
and then everything else they make from like the
Concessions.
concession stands and stuff like that. So especially like pretending like something so independent and it's been there so long, it's definitely gonna affect a lot from like the amount of money they're able to track in, and even more
Mhm.
than that, it's the amount of movies they can show because now
Yeah.
they really have to like pick and choose what this distribution companies they have to like
And I know
cater
too
towards.
in my hometown we have like the big chain theaters that always like show all like the new movies coming out
Like
and
AMC and
then
stuff like that.
and then we have it's a Cinemark. And then we have our local theater who I was trying to work for them like during the beginning of the summer. And while our like main theater is starting to open, the small one like still has no idea when they're gonna be able to open due to the financially like recovering and trying to decide which movies to have in. I think that's makes me very sad because I feel like those are kind of the best theaters.
Yeah, it's a lot of the experience. Personally, my favorite movie theater since I've lived here in New Orleans is the Britannia one, because
Oh yeah.
it's such a homey feel. Like, it's definitely like the experience you want to have in a movie theater, and that's what it is really. It's just like the experience that you like,
Mm-hmm.
that is had, besides the movie, of course. And yeah, and I don't know, there's really just, it's so tough to see how like there's a possibility of it just going extinct and stuff like that.
I think the COVID is definitely gonna have a big impact, because I think people will always be scared of, especially the movie theaters, where it's already like so well known for like, oh, people can get sick there, like they don't clean it as well. So I feel like they're never gonna, maybe in the next, I don't see any time this year them recovering, because I have a feeling that not, especially in New Orleans, like where it was so bad, I definitely see like not many people coming back to the movies and like sticking more to streaming services.
Yeah, I just I'm just so surprised how, I mean, some big companies are getting like the green light to go
Mm-hmm.
forward. Like, James Cameron is getting with
For
Avatar.
Avatar,
Yeah, Avatar
yeah.
2. It's, I don't know, it's shocking because like you'd think like everybody's still kind of in quarantine, but it's sort of clearing up, but it's in that like gray area, which
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's just a weird place to be in general. And I don't know. And then I read the article about like James Cameron,
Mm-hmm.
like they were giving the green light by the production company and the insurance, and I don't know. I think that's gonna be a very interesting dynamic as to how that's gonna work because of
I
the
agree.
amount of restrictions they're gonna have to like employ.
And I wonder if it's, I don't know the number of how badly COVID reached, because I know they're filming it in New Zealand. And I wonder how that will, like them filming it in New Zealand with all of their protocols, will affect the production time. And I wonder if it'll, like, if it'll take longer than it usually would due to these certain, like, social distancing guidelines, or if you have to have less people on set.
I mean, also James Cameron movies are like such a different
Mm-hmm.
breed because
Yeah.
like they always take like more than any other movie ever to in production and stuff like that.
They're so crazy. I
And
love them.
it's great to see definitely that they got the green light, but and it's
Mm-hmm.
definitely not just like your standard physical production experience at all. But at the same time, they have to abide by the rules. Like the below the line workers are still there, and like
Mm-hmm.
the union has to protect them and everything. And uh, I don't know. At the same time, it's just so odd to see how like it's gonna work because at the end of the day, when you're doing physical production, it's like it's what's it called, a close range sort of business, or
Mm-hmm.
close range like workspace, I think it's called, where you work with a bunch of people in a very close proximity for a long period of time.
Yeah. So I wonder if they'll try to like lessen the amount of people on set, or I bet they'll only be able to like
But how's that
work.
gonna work?
I
Because
know.
it's just so interesting to see, and like everybody just has to get so creative
I
on
think
it.
it's definitely going to be interesting, because I feel like nothing like this is, I feel like a pandemic like this hasn't happened since 1920, and obviously the film industry is a lot different from 1920
I mean,
now.
in
I mean,
1920,
I was 100 years ago,
they're
but
really like everything. Like there were no big
yeah,
production studios and stuff like that.
I think this I part of me like, not that it was a, it's a very good learning thing to happen, like to have these, I think it changed like the way, like I think it will change forever how we go about things in the film industry.
Yeah,
But it is very, I think it's interesting to look at it and think like, I wonder how it'll be whenever we're working there, if it'll be different.
yeah, definitely a lot more protocols now, and
Mm-hmm.
at least the equipment. I mean, the industry is gonna be better prepared to deal with
Yeah,
something of this magnitude, really, and it really just affects everybody all across the board.
it really does.
I mean, definitely affects some people more than others, specifically like the below the line workers
Mm-hmm.
mostly. But they are an essential part of the business. Like
Yeah.
you can't really do physical production without them or
I mean,
anything.
you can't really have a movie without the
Yeah,
people who work behind the scenes.
exactly. So, and it's because they work such in close quarters too. So I don't know, the like how it's gonna be done. Like everybody's gonna have to wear a mask, and also like the like when you're in physical production, the hours can be like brutal.
I
Also,
bet that's gonna have. I have a feeling that the work days will be shorter at first,
yeah,
not to. Or I bet everyone's gonna have to get COVID screenings as well.
probably they're gonna have to get COVID screened before going on set or
Mm-hmm.
anything. But I don't know. It's just so interesting to see how it's gonna like elaborate in general.
I agree with that.
But I don't know. Like I'm trying to like hear about the like international markets through like the perspective of people who like
Mm-hmm.
actually like moviegoers that are from back home in Honduras and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. And because like third world countries are just not a lot of like countries that are have a like aren't as developed as the United States, or just a bunch of first world countries have a lot more. Feel like have a lot more to lose in a way.
I agree with that 100%.
And like the market in general is so reliant on the foreign box office, which is it's crazy to think about that if they don't reopen in other countries,
Mm-hmm.
that could also seriously affect the amount of revenue that they can have.
Yeah, that's because I feel like in America, I don't know if our economy is solely based on entertainment, like the stuff from that, but I think like I could see like if something were to happen and the entertainment industry was down for say a year, I feel like America could still like recover economically in other ways. And I think I didn't know about that, like how in Honduras it's very, what's the word?
It's like a lot.
Relies on the industry.
I mean, it's not to say that they rely on the industry. It's to say the like the in just in general the box office
Mm-hmm.
relies on like foreign capital
Oh,
mostly.
okay.
Like
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
they rely on like China mainly. That's why
Mm-hmm.
a lot of like big budget blockbuster AAA movies rely on like they make the standards specifically pandering towards like the Chinese audience,
Mm-hmm.
because that's where the money is.
And I wonder if because of COVID and everything, if our relations with China's box office will be affected.
I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
it's really just such a cloud of uncertainty,
Yeah.
and a lot of I feel like what the industry is going to rely on now is just the creativity of how people are going to be able to
Mm-hmm.
effectively do their jobs, and just like I think develop new workflows to how they're going to be able to like create the I don't know. It's just
Yeah.
it's so difficult to think about, but yeah,
Because I'm so unsure of it. I have no idea what could possibly happen.
and at least we're looking at it from like outside of the box too,
Mm-hmm.
because we haven't like delved deep into like we're not working in the industry
Yeah.
currently.
It doesn't like I think it doesn't really affect us firsthand.
Yeah.
Like
It's really like we gonna wait a while
mm-hmm.
and then going to be able to like just see what's gonna be able to happen, and then actually go into the industry and work.
I know, I think it's gonna I'm very like not anxious, but like I think it's very lots of uncertainty. Like I kind of feel like I knew what to expect before, but after this, like it'll be a lot of research before trying to figure out how it is now and
Yeah.
everything.
Have you tried getting any like sort of internships or something, or coming across with difficulties?
What did you say?
Like coming across like difficulties because of the whole COVID situation?
I was really wanted to do the CAN internship, but then COVID
Yeah,
kind of
the
messed
American
that up.
Pavilion.
I thought that would have been so
Yeah,
cool.
for those who don't know, the American Pavilion is sort of um it's sort of a college student experience that you're able to work in Cannes and the Cannes Film Festival, which it's a really cool experience. I've never personally been, but I've talked to people who've been there, and they completely recommend it. You get to meet a lot of people from the industry, and it's really good for making connections and just like seeing all of this just like work out and
Mm-hmm.
everything. But yeah, I was planning on applying actually, but the the whole COVID situation, it's
Yeah.
just hard.
And then I was supposed to have an internship. Have you ever heard of the Louisiana Film Prize?
No.
It's one of the biggest film festivals in, I want to say I don't know if it's the South or Louisiana, but it was started in Shreveport, where I'm from. And one of my really good friends, her dad actually started it.
Oh, really?
And then her younger brother started the Louisiana Junior Film Prize, which I've submitted films in whenever I was in high school. But I was supposed to work on that, but then it ended up getting canceled. So
Yeah.
they didn't really need me to work on it anymore.
It's, I don't know. I've been looking a lot into getting into like audio and stuff like that, because I really like this past semester we had to take an audio class and talk a lot about dialogue and just like building a scene through just like the audio aspect of everything, and not only the video aspect. And I was looking into getting an internship with our professor John Vogel, and yeah, and I mean the whole situation is hard for everybody.
Yeah.
That's really when I noticed that everybody was going to be affected, when I was talking to him about it. And then he said that it's going to be difficult in order to execute, because like, you know, every freelancer, every post-production company or small production company is like heavily affected. At least like the big ones have like sort of cushion of, you know, money to fall back on in order to like not go under. But a lot of small production companies
I think freelancers must be, they're getting affected so badly right now.
And what I think I'm scared most of is the aspect of sort of creativity. Because, you know, the most creative like films that come out normally are those from like small production companies. Like, you know, A24, it started out like
I love A24.
Yeah, like A24 started as like a relatively small production company and stuff like that, and they've made a very big name for themselves. And I feel like the whole thing that's happening, it really takes a toll on like new independent creators and just independent film companies.
I do think this is I think even though like 2020 is probably been one of the worst years, I think we're gonna see some really great movies about 2020.
I mean, hopefully.
I hope so.
As
I think
like a topic in
even
general.
though all the bad stuff, I feel like that gives a lot of people like not things to do, but like I can definitely see a lot of people making movies about 2020.
Yeah, for sure. The good thing is there's definitely been a lot of time to reflect. I was talking to one of our professors, Robert Racine, and then he said like the best thing you can do right now in quarantine is just write. Because
yeah, that's what I've been doing. I've had a lot of time to figure out kind of what I want to do, which I like a lot, because before I was kind of just going through film, like not really knowing exactly what I was going to do when I graduated with it. And I think like I've had a lot of time to kind of figure out what I'm into, watch like catch up on all the movies I've really been needing to see. And I think it's been a good time for that, especially like as a film student.
Yeah, it's definitely been a whirlwind of a time that everybody's sort of
Most
had.
definitely.
But yeah, I'm glad. The only thing I'm really glad about this whole situation is that I talked to Professor Racine about. He is a professor at Loyola University. That he said that a lot of the streaming services, like, they're gonna eventually run dry of like new content and stuff like that. So they're probably gonna be seen to buy a lot of scripts, and production companies as well. So like writing in general, I feel like is going to be like a very helpful trait to have. Like if you're able to like write one really good script or two even, you're going to be able to sell those.
Because I wonder too with like especially Netflix more specifically, and like, because I feel like out of all of the streaming services, Netflix originals is just a very like, there's always something new coming out. Yeah. And I wonder, since this big like few month break, I wonder if they're gonna start spacing out how often they release content, or if there's just gonna be a huge like couple months that they don't release anything.
And I feel like people are gonna get like frustrated and tired of not being able to watch anything new, especially because since streaming services have like erupted into like the like Goliath they are now in the entertainment industry, like now people's attention span, like everybody wants to consume more content.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're just expecting it to roll it out. And because like people have gotten so used to that, and having that sort of pause that nothing
Mm-hmm.
is going to be made or like published in such a while, I feel like that's going to be difficult in order to like retain like users and stuff like that.
And that's why I think, especially during the quarantine, like Netflix was really killing it with like Tiger King and what's that, Outer Banks.
Yeah.
And I just wonder, like, so many people are constantly like, oh, we need new originals, like we're getting bored of all this stuff. And so I'm really curious to see how it turns out with them like releasing new content.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, content right now is just the name of the game. Like
Yeah.
because the like streaming services are their own distribution
Mm-hmm.
platforms, but that's the consumption basis. Like that's what they're gonna be pandering towards, and it's just like maintaining like fresh. And obviously they like Netflix makes deals in other streaming platforms like Amazon and Hulu. Like they definitely make deals with different companies like Universal, whatnot, to in order to get different rights for movies and
Mm-hmm.
publishing and stuff like that. So I feel like that's gonna be a really big thing. Like that not production companies, that like Universal, big companies that
Mm-hmm.
already produce these movies. They're probably gonna have like leeway in order to get them like distributed through these platforms.
I agree with that. And I wonder too if, since, because I saw a YouTube video earlier how it's talking about how the box office, there's so many issues because there's so many movies they need to release. And I wonder if people will start just wanting to sell their movies to Netflix and take the streaming side rather than a theatrical run.
Yeah, Trolls was really the guinea pig in
Yeah.
that. And I
What was it released on?
I think it was just like I don't think it was like released on any streaming
Yeah.
platform.
Was it just like a website?
No, I don't think
I'm gonna Google.
like it wasn't like free to stream on any platform. I think
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure it was like you have to buy or rent it off of different platforms.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
you can
like
get it from YouTube.
yeah, you can get it from
Google,
Google.
Amazon.
Yeah, they have like different platforms, but you always have to pay for it individually. It's not like subscription basis.
Oh, it released the day we got out of school for Corona.
Really,
Mm-hmm.
that's interesting.
That is interesting.
But yeah, and also even if they do, like I mentioned previously, if they do make those they get those like 50 million buyers of like the $20 or like what is it, like $20 or $15 movie, that's still not paying for distribution.
And
I mean,
also,
not distribution, marketing.
I wonder, like, if they will, since it's on YouTube or Amazon, like, if they'll also have to pay a portion of that to YouTube and Amazon for having it on there.
I mean, probably.
Yeah.
Like it's not, because the theatrical basis, like movies rely more on the concession stands. Like tickets aren't the biggest part of like their consumption. It's or like the way they run as a business. It's mainly as a platform for like getting people to come for the concession stands and stuff like that, and like providing the whole experience.
I agree with that.
While like in streaming services, it's just like the product, here it is, watch it whenever you want, whenever.
I do. I feel like definitely going into, that's why I just still feel like Trolls 2 should have waited, because it was such a kid movie. And I remember just like as a kid, it was always like, oh, like go with your whole family, get popcorn. Because nowadays, like I never really go to the movies with my family or like do big events. And so I feel like they should have, I don't know, I feel like if they had another film, I could see like waiting to release Trolls 2 and releasing like the new, like either the Fast and Furious or the Tenet movie to streaming, because I don't know, I just feel like I feel like they could have made a lot more money off of Trolls if they wait.
Yeah, I want to go a little bit more in depth on like our personal perspectives on it. I mean, since Film for Thought is made for people upcoming in the business and everything, so I feel like it's I want to give a sense of community to the people that are going into it, likewise to ourselves that are sort of going into the industry in a couple years or a couple months even. So yeah, what's your experience been like? I know you're from Shreveport and they film a lot
Yes.
there.
So I am from Shreveport. It's in Northwest Louisiana. And growing up, we've had a lot of movies filmed, and I haven't really gotten to, in the past years, the more I've gotten interested in film, they've kind of stopped producing or shooting as many films that they did. And so, for example, they did like Olympus Has Fallen, Salem, X-Men Wolverine. But it's been very, the film industry does impact a lot of where I live. It's not a big factor of it, but it's very, there's always a lot of like celebrities and little film screenings going on. And so with the whole coronavirus, a lot of that has come to a halt. For example, I kind of mentioned it earlier, but we have a big film festival that brings in a lot of people, and
Yeah.
that will not be happening this year. And so that's going to affect like definitely the entertainment industry in Shreveport a lot, and bringing in like more exposure to the local creators that are there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, from my personal experience, like previously there hasn't been a lot of Honduran cinema, and most of it is just done like through freelancers and stuff like that. Um, and it's not like Mexico or just like, you know, south of the border, which is like Mexico's like really developed and they have like their own thing going. And then when you go down to like Central America and like in South America, it's a lot more rustic, you could say. And but yeah, Honduras, at least from my perception, um and like being Honduran and everything, they've just passed a law like allowing people to start like shooting films, stuff like that. um you know, enabling like local creators to sort of like get funding and stuff like that in
Do you
order
mean
to
in
make.
general or after the COVID?
I mean, this was pre-COVID.
Okay.
This happened, I think, six, if I'm not mistaken, like 6 months
Mhm.
before COVID happened or something like that. And it's sort of, I don't know. It's a weird though, because it's like they just passed it and like nobody can really like do anything about it.
Yeah.
Especially like a lot of countries that have like their healthcare systems aren't as developed as the one in the U.S. Are being a lot more locked down, so there won't be a widespread. So at least in Honduras, you can't really go out like of your neighborhood. Like you'll get arrested if you like end up walking like too far, just or in your car. Like,
oh my gosh, that's
yeah,
crazy.
it's because they're trying to monitor how, like how the people that go out. So instead of like, at least in Honduras, instead of using like here in the States, your like number that you use is your SSN, your social security number. In Honduras is like there's an ID number, and it isn't as like let's say like secretive as it is in the States. Like you can't really share it to a lot of people. And in Honduras, it's more of like it's like a general like piece of information, like making sure that this is your identity. So it's like if you go to a restaurant or something and you like sign that you paid with a credit card, you put your ID number on
Oh,
it.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
So
So
I feel like here growing up, my mom's always like, never tell anyone your
yeah,
social security
definitely.
number.
And having like because I'm a dual citizen, so it's like
Between here and the US, here in Honduras.
Yeah, here in Honduras. So I've had like the both perceptions. Like you
That's
can't
cool. I did
share
not know
your
that about
SSN and your ID number in Honduras is like so readily known and stuff. And the thing is, the way that they're doing it in Honduras is depending if your number, the last digit of your ID number is even or odd, you get different days to going out.
That I did not know that at all.
Yeah,
So
and
that definitely impacts the film. And
yeah,
so can certain people like
I mean,
not work
there's
on certain days?
And that's the thing. I mean, I've been talking like my parents like work and everything, and I've been talking a lot about them. They're not in the industry or anything, but they're like even how business is operating. They have this thing called a salvaconducto, which is a sort of permit you get from the local municipality in order to be able to go out and work. And I feel like it's difficult since film is so new, and you can't really have like close proximities and stuff like that. And everybody is sort of a freelancer, even though they pass this law and anything. There's no big production company. Like there's no company. Like only companies are able to get salvaconductos.
Like there's nothing like Disney or HBO in Honduras.
No, exactly.
Oh my gosh.
So you really can't get one. So right now there's literally nothing to be done,
Mm-hmm.
you know, in that way. Like, at least, for example, we were talking previously about like James Cameron
Mm-hmm.
in New Zealand or whatever, that he's like being able to make this. It's because, you know, he has he's backed by entire company, like more than just like a studio or whatever doing things independently through like unions and getting workers and stuff. It's like a company is able to like speak for them to the local municipalities where they're filming in New Zealand in order
Mm-hmm.
for everybody to be able to go out and not be
Yeah.
like disturbed.
So how do you think, like, you might have just answered this, but how would that impact, like, saying I was going to shoot a movie in Honduras? How would that impact, like, would I have restrictions or like
I think you'd still need like that salvaconducto, like that
the
permit.
permit?
But the thing is, if, for example, if
Kind
foreign,
of like a work visa if you're coming to the US.
yeah, but it's more, it's not as permanent.
Mhm.
It's more like if a cop stops you, like, and you're in your car, and then he asks like, what are you doing out? Like, for example, when you show like your ID or whatever, and they're like, well, how are you out? And then you'll just say like, you show that, basically meaning that I'm here for work. But
Oh my
that the thing
gosh.
is, you're able to do that because if you're able to shoot in a foreign company, you're obviously working through a like international production company.
Yeah.
So they're able
That's
to
crazy.
get that like salvaconducto in order to get you to work.
That's so interesting.
But yeah, the only thing is it's still a lot more restricted though.
Mhm.
They an uncle of mine lives in a city that's by the coast in Honduras called La Ceiba.
Mm-hmm.
And in that same area, I think that his same neighborhood, or the production, like the people that do production for The Survivor, so
Mm-hmm.
the Survivor TV show.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they shoot, and then the people that are like
That's shot in Honduras.
It's shot in an island,
Mm-hmm.
and like it's like, I think it's like one of the islands in Honduras. Well, the thing is, he's like talked to them, and like the thing is, you know how how like the union requires you sometimes to get like local sourcing of people.
Yeah.
And the thing is, there's no union.
That's crazy.
So there's like everybody, like even the below the line workers, there's definitely less people,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, it's like everybody's just a foreign hire.
That's so interesting. So would you say like movies, not like movies shot by American productions that are like filmed in Honduras, but like films or even projects that are made in Honduras by like the locals, are those restricted, like what you guys can watch or not, like in the theaters?
What do you mean?
Like, do they restrict like what? Because I feel like in the US you could really make a movie on anything you want, but is it restricted in Honduras, like anything like that, or not really?
I mean, as long as you don't get fairly political,
Yeah.
I'd say politics are, I mean, they're individual, like they're a different creature in every sort of place you go.
Mhm.
You know, in the States, it's very wild, and in everybody else, it's wild, but it's in a different sense. And yeah, there's sort of like the you know, the measuring system that they use for films here, that they use like the PG-13
Mhm.
rating and stuff like that.
Yeah, so what would
The
it be in
Honduran
Honduras?
the Honduran government has an equivalent. They have a department that does that,
Mhm.
and they rate it through A, B, C, or D.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, if it's A, it's like PG. If it's
Mhm.
B, it's a PG-13. If it's D, it's like rated R, and if it's D, it's like worse than, I think.
Mm-hmm. That's so interesting.
But most, even people back home, don't really rely on that much. They just implemented that, and they just show it before the movie. They just like show like a thing that says like what the rating is and what is required. And but most people just still rely on that like PG-13 rating.
I think it's very interesting because like I've obviously lived in America my entire life, and I never really thought much about how different the film industry is in different countries.
I mean, I haven't thought about that either, since like there's no big film production like back home, or like just like production company. But since I started reading up on like how the box office is so dominant in like China and just like foreign countries.
Yeah.
And since I came to live in the States like my freshman year, just like stayed here permanently, I've seen that they're like obviously the culture is very different, but some of the things that really call out to me are the movie going cultures, because like back home everybody goes to the movie,
Yeah.
always. That's like the thing. Like I used to go to the movies like practically like 3 times a week with one of my best friends. It's also, I feel like, obviously the price difference. Like I could go to the movies, like get like go to a concession stand, and then that'd probably end up being like a total of say like $10 to $12.
That's crazy. And we're here like one ticket's $14.
Yeah, that's the only thing that really hurts, because I if something I miss from back home is definitely like being able to go to the movies and stuff like that. But the only thing is, at least since the government and the local municipalities are starting to open up, depending on like the cases and everything for COVID, they're giving a lot more leeway. Like 25%. Like here in New Orleans now it's like 50% since today is phase 2. Then, so, and like the government let like theaters be open, but anything back home, and I'm pretty sure, I won't speak for any other country because I'm not completely certain, but at least most in that same situation are just like completely closed until they reopen fully.
Now, this is kind of off topic, but how badly did COVID affect Honduras?
I mean, it's bad. Like the thing is, since the healthcare system back home, this is kind of off topic, but since the health no, it's fine. Since the healthcare system back home is sort of a lot worse than it is in the States, or it is a third world country. It's like it's always overwhelmed, even like on a normal, like you could go there like any day of the week or the weekend, and it's always just full. It's packed, like the local public hospital. And then
that's crazy.
Yeah, and now because of COVID, it's just, and all those people are always in close proximity, and they're like
I feel like it spreads very easily.
Yeah, that's how it spreads very easily. And like the like equipment and stuff like that is already like, it's already kind of like what's the word, it's already like very, there's not a lot of equipment to go around, and for public hospitals, and like having this COVID thing affected, it's really like doubling down on it. And I feel like that's why the government is being really strict on it, and that's like affecting like a possible like upcoming of like the industry and stuff like that. Because I have a friend who's from Colombia and said like,
my aunt's from Colombia.
Really?
And she was saying how or she actually still lives in Colombia. My uncle's in the middle of trying to get her to the US. But he had told us how the thing was in Colombia, how they didn't have as many tests. So many people had it, but they just didn't know.
Yeah, and that's like a thing. And like a lot of countries around the world really, but at least in Central America and Latin America, like most of them like that are in that poverty live paycheck to paycheck. Sort of in the States too, it's like affected, but at least they're able to, like, the government's able to give like stimulus checks and stuff like that.
So
no, nothing.
Yeah, no stimulus checks.
No, and I feel like it really is going to like prolong a sort of infrastructure for like creating a market for being able to do movies there at a professional standpoint, stuff like that. It's interesting to see how it's going to develop, really. And I feel like the foreign market for making movies, like production companies that are foreign to the US, really have to like strive towards I don't know, creating guidelines in order to like being able to do it. Like I imagine that like mentioning again like Avatar, that's been making in New Zealand, that they're able to get people that work there and able to do it in a safe way. But they have a lot more of an ability to do it, since it's a foreign company coming in and trying to hire these people.
I think that's okay. I have a question for you. This has to do with the movie theaters, but I read that the California Department of Public Health said that movie theaters can reopen today, but a lot of them have decided not to. Why do you think that is?
I mean, it's
I know I have to think
it's
about it.
um you would think that, I don't know, maybe it's the same that we were talking about earlier,
Mhm.
that like small movie theaters are opting out
Mhm.
of, I think you gave an example, one of Shreveport,
Yeah.
that some of them, like, they're run locally, even though that they're like a Cinemark or AMC
Mhm.
or
They're
stuff like
run
that.
locally.
Yeah, they run locally, and I feel like, and because of that, they are really just trying to like see how to get off the ground, like, the movies they're able to acquire
Mhm.
too,
Yeah, I think that's a big factor as
and if
well.
they're able to actually, like, get people to go too, because at the end of the day, like, if they don't have people walking through the door, just like,
They're just
claiming
wasting
seats,
money.
they are wasting money, like, every time they turn the
Oh,
lights
that's a
on.
good point, especially in California.
I mean, like taxes in California and
I
everything.
know.
Can't even imagine how much that would cost, really. But yeah, it's definitely interesting to see how the whole thing is gonna evolve from here.
Mhm.
And I think it's definitely gonna take a lot of creativity, a lot of
I
creative
agree as
people,
well.
in order to like fluctuate the industry, to be able to film effectively and create like different workflows that work through things like the pandemic that's happening.
Mhm.
And yeah, that's I think that's mostly what I could say about that topic
I
in
agree
general.
with that. I think too, I think until people are just fully assured like that the corona's over, or maybe at least until there's like a what is it, a cure, people won't be going to like big places like that. Like I know my parents are still so like, I don't know how they let me come down here this week, but they're still so like, I don't think they'll let me go to a movie theater for a while.
Yeah, even I'm hesitant. Like
Yeah, I'm kind of hesitant.
I really like, even though like New Orleans is like in phase 2 now,
Mm-hmm.
which I didn't realize till like today. I would still be hesitant to go.
I would too.
I don't think I'd go. But that's the difficulty of running a movie theater too, is because with all this things, like, people are scared.
So it's kind of like a hit or miss. Like you never really know if anyone's gonna come or not.
Yeah.
Like if you open it.
But yeah, and right now it's really of a gamble. Like the Trolls movie, like that was a gamble. But the thing is, Universal has the money to do it.
They have the money to like, if it fails, they can recover.
Yeah, they're like, it'd be hard, but at the same time, they're like,
And that's why my heart hurts for all the independent companies that can't recover from trying to take a bet like that, or risk like that.
And I personally don't even know how James Cameron was able to get. Sorry, I'm mentioning that movie so much.
Oh no,
it's just
fine.
such an interesting example. Like, how are they able to, like, I don't know, like, seduce the insurance company to like do it? Because
I mean,
like,
it is James Cameron too.
I mean, yeah, it is James Cameron, but at the same time, it's like, no production company is gonna shoot without an insurance policy, and then the insurance policy that films use are a completion bond, meaning that, or a completion guarantee, meaning that you have to complete the movie or whatnot, and if you can't, there are certain restrictions, and it's a really case by case basis. But at the same time, like, if you don't shoot with that, you're crazy. You could just burn through money, and the possibility of a movie not being made is like so big, because like it's such a moving factor. I think it was George Orwell that said, like, a writer needs a pen, an artist needs a brush, and a director needs an army. And it's like, and if you don't have that army, like, you can't really make something like that's of that level of magnitude.
Because I feel like with a lot of other like things in the creative world, like writing and all that, like you can kind of do some of those by yourself, but film's one of those things where like you can't do
you
really cannot do it by yourself.
It's a very close proximity job and workspace, and it's just such a collaborative business in general.
That's why I like it a lot.
Yeah, it's definitely why I like it. But yeah, and this like thing is just like, so like the pandemic is just so completely just like derails everything.
Everything.
And because like no new content is being made, and it's like like production companies collaborate, and if you think about it, they collaborate on this single product, you know, like freelancers or like color graders or like people make ADR and Foley, and like they have like post-production companies. They all collaborate to make this one single product, you know, and if they can't make that one single product, like they have nothing to show for it.
I know.
And then that creates like the thing I've been calling like the gap. That's like the gap of time where like all of the film industry is gonna lose. You know, they're gonna
or like nothing's gonna be coming out.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's gonna be this sort of pause in time where they're just gonna have like zero work for a time.
I agree with that. I know that so HBO and A24 partnered to work on Euphoria. Have you seen that?
I haven't been able to see it, but
It's
I've
such a
heard
good show.
a lot of good
But
things.
I know that I want to say they were, so the first season came out last summer, and they were supposed to release the second season, I want to say either this summer or later in the year, and now it won't come out until like late next year. And so many people, and that also makes me wonder, like, especially with Avatar 2, like I think the wait time in between whenever you release like a second season or a sequel has to do a lot with how many people will come back and like be interested in watching it again.
For sure.
So I wonder like if that will affect like the viewership, like if sequels or other seasons will do better.
I mean, I think that there's like clear representations of that throughout time. Like there's definitely like movies or TV shows that take a sort of hiatus for a period of time. So I don't particularly think
James
that
Cameron did with Avatar.
I mean, yeah, James Cameron definitely is taking his sweet time.
That was like that came out 10 years or such a long time ago.
Yeah, like a decade ago at this point.
I think I was in second grade when it came out.
But I don't think they're going to lose viewership.
I don't think so on Avatar.
But not even for Euphoria, because like it's such a cult classic.
Yeah.
From what I've heard, and
it's so good. You'd love it.
I'm definitely gonna get on that since we have so much time at the moment.
I've watched so many things.
But yeah. All right, I feel like that's gonna be the conclusion of this episode.
It's good with me. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of Film for Thought. If you'd like to plug anything, now it's a good time.
No, not really. I don't have anything to plug.
It's fine. Well, thank you for everybody who's viewing. I know it's been a while since we've posted an episode, and we're definitely gonna have a lot of different things coming in. Sort of like video essays introducing new type of content in the YouTube channel that we have, just in general, like for Film for Thought. And thank you for everybody that's listening to the podcast on streaming services. And yeah, we'll catch you next time. Bye.